does that mean that none of the roads done so far is worth commending?
It's not that it's not worth commending. If we have all the resources in this world, there's no point. We can put all the roads everywhere. But I'm saying that in quantum to our need in the state, in quantum the resources that is available, in quantum to the sources of those funds. But what is the point in borrowing at 20-25% to go and begin to demolish people's properties and begin to put 10-lane road where even 4 lanes can work at this time?
But remember,
that's the point I'm making.
Remember, there was a lot of controversy as well about the previous governments and their borrowing plan. The House of Assembly, the State House of Assembly, remember, was also up in arms against the same borrowing. But now you say...
The same, even not only that, even this governor put an advertisement in the paper then, calling it bond of bondage, and saying that when he gets to office, he's not going to do any borrowing. I get my point. So I don't have any problem with borrowing by government. The issue is that what is it used for? The issue here is that we cannot forgo education, which I mean, like I said, is in comatose. We cannot forgo education, we cannot forgo health, and we are backing on a road whose cost is astronomical at about 1.4 billion naira as against about 500 or 600 elsewhere, whose quality is even has question mark. I told you now the Lagos, the one on Lagos, on Benin Road, even yesterday, a side of it was closed, and also involving so much wastages.
Tell us then, in terms of funds and revenue, Ogun State said they've been able to raise the IGR from 700 million to 4 billion naira within 2 years. What's your plan? How do you intend to improve?
I think it's even good that I'm saying 4 billion. What we have been hearing before is 6.something billion.
No, this was as at 2013. They said they were able to do it in 2 years.
What else I'm saying? The only time that the revenue of Ogun State government rose to 3.5 billion was around February 2013, thereabout, when this home shelter program was introduced. So they actually got a lot of revenue.
So you dispute these figures? You do not agree with that?
Well, since he's saying 4, since he is saying 4, that is in line with our own.
This was in 2013, actually. Yes. They said they did it in 2 years, from 700 million to 4 billion within 2 years.
Yes.
So, we all know that revenue is not constant. If we stick with an average of 4 billion naira, would you agree with that?
Is it average? What I'm saying is that the only time, by our own record, that the revenue of this government rose to 3.53 billion was around February 2013, thereabout. And this was as a result of a specific program that they embarked upon, which is home shelter, and that is a one-off program. That is a one-off program. So if you want to tell me that revenue has risen to so much, then we must see it going on for a long time. If you are doing a graph and you just get 1 or 2 months that that went up, and then you not get the thing coming down again, that does not necessarily mean that.
So what is the figure? If you dispute these figures, if you do not agree with 4 billion, what is the figure according to you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that the revenue could have gone up. Even before it got to 700 by the last administration, and it wasn't even 700. I think it was about 900 by the last administration. It used to be 300. So ordinarily, even by normal inflation, revenue will go up, even by normal inflation, even if you don't touch anything. But so my own figure is probably around 2 billion. Which,
currently.
Yes, that is constant. Constant. Because the point I'm making is that the fact that you have an offshoot in 1 or 2 months does not mean that is the revenue base of the government.
Well, we'll wait for them to either agree with you or dispute your figures. But the question,
they said it was 5 billion.
Yeah. That is one I refuted this in a debate I had one-on-one with the governor. That's the point I'm making.
The question will be, what will you do? If you say it is 2 billion, what is the capacity, in your estimation, of what Ogun State can produce? And what will you do to ensure that capacity is achieved?
One of the things we want to do is to actually fast-track development in our border towns. We believe that there are a lot of potentials in our border towns. I mean, our border towns are those areas that border Lagos, and therefore, potentials as to capacity to pay, revenue and things that can be done there and activities that's going on around there. But the infrastructure in those areas are poor to the extent that where infrastructure is poor, you cannot begin to ask people to pay revenue. So one of the things we want to do is to actually enhance and fast-track development in those border towns by setting up what we call Border Town Development Commission, and then attracting revenues into them, resources into them that can enhance the revenue of activities in these places, and then through that you can now, over time, request for revenue. The other thing is that
request for revenue.
Yes. From those border towns.
Okay,
from
so in the meantime,
people that live around those border towns. Because the problem we have now is that infrastructure in those areas are very poor. All this Mowe, Ibafo, and all of those areas. Whereas I think they have a greater potential to pay higher revenue than they are paying now because of their closeness to Lagos. There are a lot of people that live there and work in Lagos and all of that, and vice versa.
So if you say they're very poor, does that mean that if you win, you will not demand any tax?
No, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the infrastructure will, number one, before you can begin to ask people to pay revenue, they must see what you want to do. They must take some benefit from government. And we are saying that the people that live around this area, in some of these areas, they have potentials to pay higher revenue, higher tax, and then also to generate higher revenue from them. But you cannot begin to do that if you don't enhance the facilities that they have, in those areas. Therefore, through this commission that we intend to set up, which we call Border Town Development Commission, we intend to fast-track development in those areas, which will potentially give us higher revenue in future. That's the point. That's what I'm making.
Are you aware that as it stands right now, the Ogun State government has been able to reach an agreement where those who live in Ogun and work in Lagos pay their taxes to the Ogun State government? Are you aware of that?
There's one thing to put a law in place. There's another thing for people to want to willingly pay. You see people willingly and more cheerfully pay taxes, and even when they see what we are putting into, so the fact that we put that in place doesn't mean that people will be prepared and really want to pay.
No, I'm just asking if you're
aware
that
it's not new.
That is in place, and that the Lagos State government has been remitting the taxes.
It's not new. That's not new.
State government.
That's not new.
But the reason I'm bringing this up is because of the figures that you dispute in terms of the internally generated revenue. Because one of the biggest components, it was saying, of that revenue they claim is the taxes they also get from people who live in Ogun State but work in Lagos. Are you aware of that?
There's no big deal about that. I mean, it's something that has been on before now. Even the last administration make attempt to do it. Oh, of course, because it was PDP versus ACN, it will have been smoother now because it's the same party. I mean, it will have been smoother now. But it's a provision of the law, and it's something that we've been working on and talking about, all that while. So there's no big deal about that. But what I'm even saying now is that aside from putting a law in place or regulation in place that will make it work, what I'm even saying is that, look, some of these areas, the population is high, all this Ifo, Akuti and all of that, the population is high, infrastructure is poor. How do we find a way to enhance the infrastructure so that you can actually generate a lot of revenue from there? That is the thing. In addition to, of course, also pursuing big economic projects that can potentially in the future give revenue. Those are some of the things. So I'm fully aware of that. What I'm saying is that there is no big deal about that. It's something that has been there. Anybody will do it. I mean, any government will do it.
The most amazing thing is that before the former president dropped his partisanship with any political party, as General Obasanjo, he showed his love for this particular administration. In his word, he said, well, they're working. And that was when he was still a card-carrying member of the PDP. If you're saying this particular administration hasn't actually done a lot, it will be very hard for anyone to now know who to believe, knowing full well that we have actually seen a whole lot on the ground. Some would want you to answer. For instance, Abiodun, he said, kindly ask Mr. Isiaka what remarkable impact he was able to make on the Gboyega Daniels administration that would amount to you coming into political fray again.
Well, as the first on the comment by former President Obasanjo, Baba is, is entitled to that opinion. What I'm talking about now is the view of an average person on the street of Ogun State, and I'm not even necessarily talking about every person in Abeokuta town. On the street of Ogun State, all over the place, because we also have a situation where even all of this you are talking about, this development is in Abeokuta, and then one or two bridges in Ijebu. I mean, those two locations, if you add it up together, what is the percentage? I mean, that's probably about 3 or 4 local government out of 20. So, and we are talking of the feelings out of 20 local government. In addition to this, even the local governments are not working. What the governor does with the local government now is that they barely pay salaries, and all the resources is managed from the center.
We're out of time. You just want to answer Abiodun.
So on what I don't do, my function, my role, my responsibility in that government was to manage the investment of the state, and I think I did it very well. I have said it many times that I remain very proud of what I did during that time. Number one, before then, all the assets of the state were scattered all over the place. They were not concentrated. We put all of them together, and then we manage, manage very well. And then the state-owned enterprises, the hotels, and all whatnot, that were incurring losses on behalf of the government, keep paying monies on them. We put them together under a very open and transparent process to get concessionaires into it, and that to me remains the best. The government has initially, I remember that I came to your station at the early part of the government when they were shouting all over the place that the people were sold, that this and that, and I said, look, give me a better option. If you give a better option to those assets, then I will raise up my hand. Up to now, at the last debate, the governor also agreed that concessioning is the way. And that the only thing he's quarreling about is the number of years. And I say, well, thank God that eventually you have agreed that that is the way. Number of years you're talking about is the variable. And you cannot treat a variable without looking at other components of the variable. So whenever anybody asks that what did I do? Oh, my bid was to manage the investment of the state. My bid was to bring investors into the state. Ogun Free Trade Zone, that is the only functional free trade zone today in southwest of Nigeria. We did it around that time. The local, deep sea port and all of that we started. We did it. The industrial park on the express here that the governor demolished when he got in there. We bought it. That would have brought thousands of jobs into this state and a lot of power. So in terms of what I did that time, I think I can say very proudly that I give a good account of myself.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Gboyega Isiaka, as the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Ogun State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back after the break. We've got other matters as well today, so join us again.